Do you know what surprised me the most when I first became a mother? It wasn't the sleepless nights. It wasn't the crying. It wasn't even the exhaustion that seems to settle into your bones. It was something much quieter than that. It was the silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from control, but the kind that comes from understanding. I didn't notice it at first. But the moment I stepped outside Japan, I felt it immediately. Playgrounds sounded different. Children were louder. Parents were louder. There were instructions everywhere. Stop that. Don't do this. Be careful. Sit down. And I stood there, watching, listening, not judging, just wondering. Is this what parenting is supposed to feel like? Because where I come from, it feels very different. Not perfect, not magical, just different in a quiet way that most people don't notice. When my son was 2 years old, he had one of those moments every parent knows. He threw his toy across the room. It hit the wall with a sharp sound, and then came the crying. Loud, sudden, emotional. The kind of moment that usually triggers a reaction. And I felt it too. That instinct to correct him, to say no, to stop the behavior before it got worse. But I didn't. Instead, I did something that to many people might look like I was doing nothing. I sat down. Not across the room, not standing above him. I sat right next to him, at his level. And I waited. Because in that moment, I wasn't asking, how do I stop this? I was asking something else. What is he feeling right now?
He was still crying, his breathing uneven, his little hands tense. And I looked at him gently, not trying to fix him, just trying to see him. Then I said softly, "You're upset, aren't you?" No command, no correction, no lecture. Just recognition. And something changed. Not instantly, not dramatically, but slowly. You could see it. His crying softened. His shoulders dropped just a little. Because someone understood him before trying to control him. And that moment, that small, quiet moment, is where everything begins. I think this is where many people misunderstand what creates a calm child. They think calmness comes from discipline, from rules, from consequences, from being told what is right and wrong, again and again. But calm is not something you force into a child. Calm is something that grows when a child feels safe. In Japan, we don't ask, how do I make my child behave? We ask, what does my child need right now? And that question changes the entire direction of the moment. Because when a child feels misunderstood, they resist. When they feel controlled, they push back. But when they feel seen, they soften. Not because they have to, but because they no longer feel alone in their emotion.
This doesn't mean there are no boundaries. That's something people often get wrong. We do guide our children. We do step in. We do teach. But we don't begin with fear. We begin with connection. Because fear may stop a behavior in the moment, but it doesn't teach a child how to handle what they feel. And feelings don't disappear just because they are silenced. They stay. They build. Sometimes quietly. Sometimes explosively. So instead of asking children to be calm,
We show them what calm feels like through us.
There were many small moments like this as my son grew. Moments that, from the outside, might not look like much. But inside, they mattered. Like the time he spilled juice all over the floor. He froze. He looked at me, waiting. Not for help, but for my reaction. That tiny pause where a child decides what kind of world they are living in. Is it a world where mistakes bring anger? Or a world where mistakes bring guidance? I walked over, looked at the mess. Then I looked at him, and I said, "It's okay. Let's clean it together." And just like that, the fear disappeared. Not because the mistake didn't matter, but because he wasn't alone in fixing it. In our home, cleaning is not a punishment. It's part of being together. Helping is not something we force. It's something children learn by watching us. Respect is not something we demand loudly. It's something we live quietly. And over time, something beautiful happens. The child begins to change, not because they are afraid of consequences, but because they understand their actions. They begin to pause, to think, to feel, and eventually to guide themselves. This is the difference between control and guidance. Control is fast. It gives you immediate results: silence, obedience, compliance. But it fades because it depends on your presence, your voice, your authority. Guidance is slower, sometimes frustratingly slow. It asks for patience, for consistency, for awareness of your own emotions, even when you are tired. But it stays because it becomes part of the child, not something imposed on them, but something built within them. And I won't pretend this is easy. There are days when you are exhausted, days when your patience feels thin, days when reacting feels so much easier than understanding. I've had those days too, many of them. But I've learned something important. Children don't become calm because we tell them to. They become calm because they experience calm through us. Your tone becomes their tone. Your reactions become their reactions. The way you handle stress becomes the way they handle stress. So when we change, even slightly, they feel it. So the next time your child has a meltdown, and they will, pause. Not forever, just for a moment. Take a breath. Sit down if you can. Get close. Lower your voice and ask yourself, what is my child feeling right now? Not what they're doing, not how it looks, but what's underneath it. Because behind every difficult behavior, there is something unmet, a need, a feeling, a moment of overwhelm they don't yet know how to handle. And when you meet that moment with presence instead of control, something shifts. You don't just stop the behavior. You build trust. You build safety. You build a child who feels seen, even in their hardest moments. And that kind of child doesn't need to fight you. They don't need to hide. They don't need to become louder to be heard. Because they already are. Heard, understood, connected. And that is how calm children are raised.